There's a force within you that, when mastered, can turn chaos into clarity and energy into precision. It's not about pushing harder or moving faster, it's about control. This is the art of controlled intensity, a mastery that many seek but few truly understand. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by your own power, the way your energy surges uncontrollably, leaving you drained or off balance? What if you could harness that energy, not by forcing it, but by guiding it gently and deliberately? This ancient wisdom isn't new. For centuries, Taoist sages practiced a discipline known as jingli, a concept that embodies the skill of channeling your inner energy without excess or waste. Jingli teaches that true strength lies not in brute force but in the measured flow of vitality, like a river that never floods nor dries but sustains life consistently. The mastery of jingli demands more than physical effort, it requires profound self-awareness, a deep understanding of your own rhythms and limits. It is an invitation to step into a dance with your own nature, moving with intention rather than impulse. Imagine for a moment the way a skilled calligrapher wields a brush. The strokes are neither rushed nor hesitant. Each movement is deliberate, flowing, controlled. The energy behind each line is balanced perfectly between strength and softness. This is the essence of jingli applied to life itself, controlled intensity. It's a practice that sharpens not just the body but the mind, tempering raw power with refined focus. The challenge, of course, lies in the paradox. How can one cultivate intensity without letting it spiral out of control? How do you push yourself enough to grow but not so much that you break? This delicate balance is the secret guarded by those who have walked the path of jingli before you. It is a system that demands patience, discipline, and a willingness to observe yourself without judgment. In today's world, where speed and excess are often celebrated, the art of controlled intensity feels almost revolutionary. We're taught to chase bigger, faster, stronger, yet this approach frequently leads to burnout and fragmentation. The wisdom of jingli calls us to pause and reconsider. What if true power lies in restraint rather than release? What if the key to lasting energy isn't how hard you push but how wisely you conserve and direct? This is not a vague philosophical musing. It is a practical, actionable path. It begins with awareness, paying close attention to how your energy rises and falls throughout the day, noticing the triggers that cause you to overextend or lose focus. It continues with intention, setting clear boundaries around your efforts so that each moment is charged with purpose, not scattered by distraction. And it evolves into mastery, learning to sustain this controlled flow until it becomes second nature, an unbreakable rhythm that carries you forward effortlessly. You might wonder, how does one embark on such a journey? The first step is acknowledging that intensity, like any resource, is finite. It cannot be summoned endlessly without consequences. The sages of jingli recognized this early on and developed rituals and practices that preserved their vitality. They moved with a grace that belied their strength, never exhausting themselves in a single burst but maintaining a steady fire that burned through decades. Their approach was not about suppression but harmony. They didn't seek to extinguish passion or drive but to align it with a sustainable current. This meant learning when to hold back as much as when to advance, cultivating sensitivity to the subtle signals of the body and mind. It was a lifelong dialogue with themselves, a deep listening that revealed the invisible boundaries of their endurance. What you are about to learn is the beginning of this dialogue. Through the coming chapters, you will meet those who have grappled with the tension between energy and control, passion and prudence. You will see how their struggles and discoveries illuminate a path toward your own mastery of controlled intensity. This is not a quick fix or a motivational pep talk, it is a profound transformation of how you relate to your own power. To engage fully with this journey, I invite you to participate actively. Reflect on your current patterns of energy. When do you feel most alive? When do you feel burnt out? What moments in your day drain you, and which ones recharge you? By cultivating this self-awareness, you lay the foundation for the practice of jingli. Furthermore, consider sharing your experiences and questions in the comments below. This is not a solitary path but a communal one. The sages understood the value of teachers and peers to guide and challenge them. Your voice can contribute to a living dialogue, enriching the understanding of controlled intensity for all who seek it. Subscribing to this series ensures you won't miss the unfolding story, the lessons, and the practical exercises that will follow. Mastery of Jingli is a journey without shortcuts, but with steady guidance, it becomes accessible to anyone willing to commit. Each chapter will build upon the last, revealing more about the nature of controlled energy and how to embody it in your daily life. Remember, the goal here is not to extinguish your fire but to transform it into a steady flame that warms and illuminates all that you do. The power of Jingli lies in its subtlety, the ability to move with force yet without frenzy, to act with conviction but never with recklessness. This ancient practice is a reminder that within you exists a reservoir of strength that need not be squandered. It is waiting to be discovered, refined, and mastered. As you embark on this path, keep in mind that controlled intensity is not an endpoint but a living, breathing process. It is the art of balancing the wild and the disciplined, the passionate and the prudent. In the next chapter, you will meet Mei, a martial artist whose story embodies this struggle and the potential for transformation. Through her journey, you will witness the challenges and breakthroughs that come with embracing Jingli. Her experience will serve as a mirror and a guide, offering insights that resonate beyond the dojo and into the heart of your own life. Until then, begin by observing your own energy without judgment, cultivating the awareness that is the first step toward mastery. The path of controlled intensity awaits, and with it, a power that doesn't consume but sustains, a power that, once harnessed, can change everything. Mei was a force of nature. In the dojo, her movements were explosive, her passion unmistakable. She lived for the rush, the surge of adrenaline, the roar of her own heartbeat pounding through her chest. Yet beneath this fiery exterior lay a secret struggle. Her energy was as unpredictable as a summer storm. One day she would train with relentless intensity, pushing through pain and exhaustion, and the next she'd collapse, drained and unable to face even the simplest tasks. The very passion that fueled her success was also the source of her undoing. For years, Mei wrestled with this imbalance. She tried to quiet her impulses, telling herself to slow down or just breathe. She experimented with meditation and breathing exercises, but the relief was fleeting. Her bursts of energy were uncontrollable, and when they faded, they left behind a hollow emptiness. Coaches and friends suggested rest, moderation, even therapy, but Mei found it impossible to relinquish the intensity that defined her. Her breakthrough came unexpectedly, in the form of an ancient text she stumbled upon while cleaning out her grandfather's belongings. The manuscript spoke of Jingli, the Taoist principle of controlled energy flow. It described a disciplined, mindful approach to activity, one that embraced passion but tempered it with restraint. The idea that energy could be harnessed like water, flowing in measured currents rather than rushing in destructive floods, fascinated Mei. She realized this was the key she had been missing. But understanding Jingli was one thing, living it was another. Mei knew that change required more than theory, it demanded accountability. She needed external anchors to hold her in place when her own will faltered. So she began sharing her intention openly, telling her training partners and coaches about her commitment to controlled intensity. This public declaration was a radical shift for her. For the first time, she wasn't just promising herself, she was making a vow in front of others. This accountability created a powerful social pressure that helped steady her wavering resolve. Mei's journey into Jingli was anything but smooth. The first weeks were marked by frustration. She struggled to resist the urge to explode into her practice sessions, fighting the impulse to push beyond her limits. Her body rebelled against the new rhythm, craving the wild abandon she had grown accustomed to. Yet she persisted, guided by the principle that mastery required patience and presence. One of the most difficult lessons was learning to modulate her intensity, to find a middle way between too much and too little. Mei began to notice the subtle signals her body sent before exhaustion set in, the tightening in her shoulders, the shallow breaths, the racing thoughts. By tuning into these cues, she started adjusting her efforts in real time, pulling back before the floodgates opened. This mindful modulation transformed her training. No longer did she sprint only to crash, instead, she maintained a steady, sustainable pace. Her endurance improved, and with it, her skill. The practice of Jingli was reshaping not just her energy but her entire approach to martial arts. She was learning that power without control was chaos, and control without power was lifeless. Another critical factor in Mei's transformation was the establishment of clear training periods, non-negotiable blocks of time dedicated solely to practice. Before embracing Jingli, her sessions were erratic, dictated by mood and energy levels. Now, she committed to specific hours each day, creating a structure that reduced mental strain. This discipline allowed her to conserve energy by eliminating the daily battle of if and when she would train. External accountability played a vital role here as well. Mei's training partners knew her schedule and expected her presence. The fear of letting them down anchored her commitment, adding a layer of motivation that internal resolve alone could not provide. This social framework became a scaffold for her growing mastery over intensity. Yet, even with these supports, Mei faced moments of temptation to revert. When fatigue whispered that rest was better, or when adrenaline called for a surge, she felt the old internal tug-of-war. But instead of resisting blindly, she learned to observe these urges without judgment, recognizing them as transient waves rather than commands. This shift in perspective was profound. It allowed her to respond to her body and mind with kindness and clarity. Mei's story reveals a truth that often goes unspoken: passion, when left unchecked, can become self-destructive. It demands a container, a form that holds it without diminishing its fire. Jingli provides that form. It teaches that energy is not a resource to be spent recklessly but a current to be directed wisely. Through this disciplined flow, Mei discovered a new kind of freedom. She was no longer at the mercy of her impulses but in partnership with them. Her energy became a tool, sharpened and focused, rather than a wild beast to be tamed. This transformation was not instantaneous, it was the product of daily choices, repeated with intention and courage. In the dojo, her peers began to notice the change. Mei's movements took on a new quality, less explosive perhaps, but more precise and powerful. Her stamina soared, and her ability to maintain focus deepened. She became a living example of Jingli in motion, embodying the balance of intensity and control. This journey also taught Mei the importance of community in sustaining change. The support she received from her training partners, the accountability born from shared commitment, and the encouragement from mentors all contributed to her progress. Controlled intensity is not a solitary pursuit, it thrives in connection and shared purpose. Mei's experience underscores a vital lesson for anyone who struggles with their own fluctuating energy: mastery begins with awareness and is nurtured through accountability. By publicly declaring her intentions and structuring her practice, she created the conditions necessary for transformation. The ancient wisdom of Jingli became a living practice, guiding her from chaos to clarity. As Mei continues her path, she will face new challenges, moments when old habits knock at the door and the temptation to overexert returns. But armed with the principles of Jingli, she now possesses tools to navigate these trials with grace. Her journey is a testament to the power of controlled intensity, a dance between passion and prudence that anyone can learn. In the next chapter, we will delve deeper into the inner conflicts Mei confronts as she wrestles with the urge to push beyond her limits despite knowing the risks. Her struggle between the fire of passion and the calm of control will reveal the heart of Jingli's challenge and the transformative power of setting non-negotiable boundaries. Through her story, you will gain insights into how to move from chaos toward sustainable mastery, step by deliberate step. Mei stood at the edge of the training hall, her breath steady but her mind turbulent. The calm she had cultivated through Jingli was being tested like never before. Inside her, a storm raged, a relentless urge to push harder, to break through every limit, to surrender to the fierce fire that had always defined her. Yet, she also felt a quiet voice urging restraint, reminding her of the cost of unchecked intensity. This was the crucible of her transformation, the battle between passion and prudence. For years, May had equated strength with the ability to push beyond all boundaries. Pain was a measure of progress, exhaustion a badge of honor. But the discipline of Jingli challenged everything she believed. It asked her not to deny her passion but to channel it with wisdom. This internal tension was not a weakness, it was the necessary friction that forged mastery. One afternoon, after an especially grueling sparring session, May felt the familiar surge, the adrenaline-fueled desire to keep going, to ignore the tightness in her muscles, to defy the warning signals her body sent. She was caught between two impulses, the temptation to explode forward and the need to hold back, to preserve her energy for the long journey ahead. This moment crystallized the profound struggle at the heart of controlled intensity. It wasn't about suppressing desire but learning to negotiate with it. May realized that the question wasn't, how much can I push, but, how should I push? This subtle shift in framing transformed her approach. Instead of battling her urges, she began to listen, to discern the difference between constructive challenge and destructive excess. To navigate this inner turmoil, May established non-negotiable boundaries around her training. She designated specific periods dedicated to intense practice, during which she allowed herself to fully engage, and equally important, designated times for rest and recovery. These boundaries were sacred, not flexible options. By committing to them, she alleviated the mental strain of constant decision-making. The daily question of, should I train now? Became irrelevant, her schedule dictated the flow, creating a rhythm that her body and mind could trust. This structure did more than organize her time, it redefined her relationship with effort. May no longer measured success by how much she could endure in a single session but by the consistency and quality of her practice over time. The focus shifted from quantity to precision, from random bursts to deliberate, measured action. Within these boundaries, May cultivated the practice of repeating specific, calibrated actions. She developed a routine that balanced push-ups, meditation, and skill drills, each performed with exactness and attention. This rigid structure silenced the internal negotiations that once eroded her focus. By reducing variability, she minimized the opportunity for distraction or self-sabotage. The repetition was not mindless but deeply intentional. Each movement was infused with awareness, each breath a marker of presence. This disciplined flow nurtured a steady energy that did not spike or crash but sustained her through the demands of training and daily life. The practice of Jingli revealed itself in these precise moments, where intensity met control in perfect harmony. Yet, the journey was far from linear. May encountered setbacks, days when her body resisted, when fatigue blurred her focus, when old habits whispered temptations. In these moments, she learned that consistency did not require perfection. She allowed herself the grace to adapt without abandoning her practice. If illness or travel disrupted her routine, she responded with pre-decided alternatives, shortened sessions, lighter exercises, or mindful breathing. These contingency plans ensured that the thread of practice remained unbroken, preserving momentum even in adversity. This adaptability was a revelation. It dismantled the all-or-nothing mindset that had trapped her in cycles of overexertion and collapse. Instead, May embraced a flexible rigidity, a paradox where boundaries were firm but responses were fluid. This balance became the hallmark of controlled intensity, allowing her to maintain progress without rigidity that led to burnout. The transformation extended beyond the physical. May noticed a calming of her mind, a reduction in the obsessive chatter that once fueled her extremes. Her emotions stabilized, no longer tossed by the storms of passion and exhaustion. She developed a resilience that carried her through challenges with equanimity, a steadiness that inspired those around her. Through this process, May grasped a fundamental truth: mastery is not the absence of struggle but the art of moving through it with grace. The internal conflict between desire and discipline is a necessary passage, a forge that tempers raw energy into refined power. As she continued, May's identity began to shift. No longer was she the impulsive warrior driven by bursts of intensity. She was becoming someone who embodied controlled energy, whose actions flowed from a deep well of self-awareness and intentionality. This new self was not a suppression of passion but its elevation, a channeling of fire into light. Her peers started to see the change as well. Mei's presence in the dojo carried a quiet confidence, a magnetic balance that drew others in. She became a living example of the Jingli principle, a beacon of sustainable strength that challenged the prevailing culture of reckless exertion. Yet, the most profound changes were internal. Mei's nervous system, once on constant alert, began to recalibrate. The repeated practice of measured intensity rewired her responses, making automatic the very balance she once fought to maintain. This neuroplastic shift meant that controlled intensity was no longer a conscious battle but an embodied state. This evolution was not without its paradoxes. Mei still felt the pull of extremes, passion's wild call and the mind's cautious whisper. But instead of being torn apart, she held these forces in tension, allowing each its place without surrendering to either. This capacity for holding paradox became a source of strength, a testament to the depth of her transformation. Mei's journey illuminates a critical lesson for anyone seeking mastery. The path is not about eliminating internal conflict but learning to navigate it skillfully. The voice that urges you to push harder is not your enemy, it is part of your vitality. The key is to engage with this voice through the lens of intention, setting boundaries that honor both your passion and your limits. In this way, the practice of controlled intensity transcends mere habit or willpower. It becomes a profound dialogue between the parts of yourself often at odds, a synthesis that fosters resilience, clarity, and sustained power. As you reflect on Mei's struggle, consider your own inner turmoil. What urges pull you beyond your limits? What voices call you to restraint? How might setting non-negotiable boundaries shift your relationship with these forces? The art of controlled intensity invites you to move beyond the dichotomy of more and less toward a nuanced dance of how. In the next chapter, we will explore how Mei cultivates this sustainable energy flow, developing a steady rhythm that transforms her practice into a seamless extension of her being. Through her evolving routine, you will discover practical strategies for embedding Jingli into your daily life, ensuring that your energy becomes a source of lasting strength rather than fleeting bursts. Mei's journey into controlled intensity was reaching a new phase, a deeper cultivation of sustainable energy flow that felt both demanding and liberating. The rigid structures she had imposed on herself began to soften into a steady rhythm, a heartbeat that pulsed through every aspect of her practice and daily life. This evolution was not accidental but the result of deliberate commitment to continuity, to a practice without gaps. At first, the transition was uncomfortable. Mei's body resisted the steady cadence after years of erratic bursts and crashes. There was a restlessness, a whispering impatience that urged her to speed up, to do more in less time. But the principle of Jingli, continuous, gapless practice, called for patience and persistence. It demanded that she honor the flow of energy not just in moments of strength but, crucially, on difficult days when motivation waned and the body begged for respite. To meet this challenge, Mei embraced a simple but powerful rule: no matter the circumstance, illness, travel, fatigue, she would engage with her practice in some form every single day. This was not about perfection or intensity but about showing up, maintaining the thread of continuity that wove her efforts into a coherent whole. On days when she felt strong, her sessions were full and focused; on others, they were lighter, more meditative, yet never skipped. This commitment to unbroken practice gradually rewired Mei's nervous system. The ritual of daily engagement became a signal to her body and mind that energy was to be conserved and directed, not squandered. Over time, the resistance diminished, replaced by a growing ease, a sense that her practice was no longer a task but a natural extension of her being. Integral to this process was Mei's preparation for inevitable distractions and setbacks. She developed pre-decided responses to obstacles, specific adjustments that allowed her to maintain practice without interruption. For example, when traveling, she switched from physical drills to visualization exercises; when fatigued, she focused on breathing techniques and gentle stretches. These adaptations preserved the continuity of her practice and prevented the all-too-common trap of all-or-nothing thinking. By planning for challenges in advance, May neutralized their power to derail her. This foresight created a resilient framework that supported sustained energy flow. Instead of viewing setbacks as failures, she reframed them as opportunities to practice flexibility within discipline, a paradox central to Jingli. As May deepened her commitment to continuous practice, she noticed profound changes not only in her physical endurance but also in her mental clarity and emotional stability. The steady flow of energy nourished her creativity and focus, allowing her to approach challenges with calm confidence rather than reactive stress. Her mood stabilized, and the cycles of burnout and recovery that had plagued her for years began to fade into the background. This transformation extended to her environment as well. The dojo, once a place of sporadic bursts and chaotic energy, became a sanctuary of calm intensity. May's presence infused the space with a quiet power, inspiring others to reconsider their own relationship with effort and rest. Her steady rhythm was a living demonstration of Jingli's efficacy, a balance of strength and softness, motion and stillness. In her daily life outside the dojo, May carried this rhythm with her. She structured her work, meals, and rest around a consistent flow, recognizing that energy management was holistic. The lessons of controlled intensity transcended physical training, shaping her entire lifestyle. She learned to honor natural cycles, to align her actions with the ebb and flow of her vitality rather than fighting against it. This holistic integration was perhaps the most profound aspect of May's transformation. Jingli was no longer a segmented practice but a guiding principle woven into every moment. It taught her that mastery is not a destination but an ongoing process of attunement to oneself and one's environment. Through this steady, gapless practice, May reached a state where controlled intensity became effortless. Her actions were no longer calculated battles against her impulses but harmonious expressions of a balanced self. The nervous system rewiring she experienced allowed her body to anticipate and meet demands with grace, conserving energy while maximizing output. This effortless mastery was not an endpoint but a doorway to deeper exploration. May understood that sustaining this flow required vigilance and humility. The temptation to revert to old patterns remained, but now she possessed the tools and awareness to navigate these moments without losing balance. Her journey also illuminated the importance of community and accountability in sustaining continuous practice. May's training partners, mentors, and friends played crucial roles in supporting her commitment. The shared commitment to presence and consistency created a powerful network that reinforced individual efforts. This collective energy amplified the effects of Jingli, transforming solitary discipline into a shared culture of sustainable strength. May's evolving routine was both simple and profound, a calibrated sequence of push-ups, meditation, and skill drills performed daily with unwavering attention. This structure minimized decision fatigue and silenced the internal negotiations that once threatened to fragment her focus. The repetition was not monotonous but a meditation in motion, each cycle deepening her connection to controlled intensity. The principle of continuous, gapless practice also reshaped May's understanding of rest. She learned to view rest not as a passive absence of effort but as an active, integral component of energy flow. Rest became a deliberate practice, a regenerative phase that replenished her reserves and prepared her for renewed action. This reframing was essential to maintaining balance and avoiding the pitfalls of overexertion. As May's practice matured, she witnessed the ripple effects of sustained energy flow in all areas of her life. Creativity blossomed, relationships deepened, and challenges were met with newfound resilience. The steady power cultivated through Jingli became a foundation upon which she built not just physical prowess but a harmonious, vibrant existence. Her transformation was a testament to the ancient wisdom embedded in Jingli, a reminder that true mastery arises from continuity, adaptability, and mindful presence. It underscored the idea that consistent, gapless practice is not a burden but a gift, a path to unlocking reserves of strength previously hidden beneath chaos and exhaustion. As you reflect on May's experience, consider how the principle of continuous practice might apply to your own life. What routines could you commit to daily, regardless of obstacles? How might preparing in advance for disruptions preserve your momentum? The art of controlled intensity invites you to create a rhythm that sustains rather than depletes, to build a practice that weaves seamlessly into your existence. In the next chapter, we will explore May's profound transformation as controlled intensity becomes effortless and inspiring to those around her. Her story will reveal how mastery reshapes identity, turning discipline into a natural state of being that others perceive as almost otherworldly. Through this, you will discover how embracing Jingli can unlock your own path to sustainable strength and resilience. May's transformation had reached a profound turning point. The disciplined flow of controlled intensity she had cultivated was no longer a conscious effort, it had become effortless, natural, almost otherworldly. Those who observed her felt a subtle shift in the air around her, a quiet power that was both inspiring and unsettling. She moved through the dojo with a grace that seemed less about physical prowess and more about a deep, internal harmony. What had once been a struggle to balance passion and restraint had evolved into a seamless dance where intensity flowed without chaos, and control never stifled her fire. May's mastery of Jingli reshaped not only her actions but her very identity. She was no longer the impulsive martial artist driven by bursts of energy, she had become someone who embodied controlled power at every moment. This transformation was not merely about physical skill or mental discipline, it was a rebirth of self. The relentless internal conflicts had given way to a unified presence. May had transcended the dichotomy of excess and scarcity, forging a new path where strength was measured not by force but by resilience and balance. Her consistency became a quiet force that unsettled others, challenging their assumptions about what discipline truly meant. People around May began to notice the change with a mix of awe and discomfort. Some admired her unwavering steadiness, while others felt intimidated by the intensity that no longer flared but burned steadily beneath the surface. This reaction was a testament to the power of her transformation. Consistency that intimidates others is the only consistency worth pursuing, it signals a fundamental shift beyond ordinary effort. May's daily practice, once rigid and painstaking, had become an extension of her being. The routines she followed were no longer external obligations but internal expressions of her newfound identity. The nervous system rewiring she had undergone allowed her body to move with automaticity, freeing her mind to engage fully with the moment. This automaticity was the hallmark of true mastery. Her mastery of Jingli also brought a profound sense of freedom. No longer was she captive to the highs and lows of impulsive energy, instead, she navigated life with a steady current of strength that sustained her through challenges. This freedom was not passive but active, a dynamic state of presence that allowed her to respond with clarity and power to whatever arose. Yet, the most remarkable aspect of May's transformation was the way it reshaped her sense of self. The identity she had held, the fiery, uncontrollable warrior, had died, making way for a new self that was unbreakable and whole. This death and rebirth were not metaphorical but felt deeply within her nervous system, a realignment that changed how she moved, thought, and felt. This profound shift is the essence of the Guji system, the ancient practice from which Jingli draws its power. It teaches that consistency is not merely about repeated actions but about becoming someone who cannot act otherwise. It demands the death of the inconsistent self and the birth of an unbreakable self. May's journey exemplified this transformation, showing that mastery is not just a skill but a rebirth of identity. As May's story unfolds, it becomes clear that this transformation is accessible to anyone willing to embrace the path of controlled intensity. It requires courage to face the internal battles, discipline to maintain continuous practice, and humility to adapt and grow. But the rewards are profound, a life lived with steady power, resilience, and clarity. Her journey invites you to reflect on your own relationship with energy and discipline. What parts of your inconsistent self are ready to die? What unbreakable self waits to be born? The path of Jingli offers a roadmap, not just to improved habits but to profound personal transformation. May's mastery challenges the cultural narratives that glorify chaos and burnout, offering instead a vision of strength grounded in balance and presence. Her example shows that true power is sustainable, inspiring, and quietly formidable. When others remark on your extraordinary consistency, you will know you have reached this goal. As you consider this message, think about your own public declaration. How will you commit to controlled intensity in your life? What routines and boundaries will you establish to embody this practice? The journey is not easy, but the Guji system ensures that with commitment, you will never break a goal again. The transformation May underwent is not just about discipline, it is about identity rebirth. When you embrace Jingli, you do not merely improve, you become. The consistent, unbreakable self that emerges is a force that intimidates and inspires. This is the power of controlled intensity, the legacy of ancient wisdom made alive in the modern world. If this resonates, your next step is clear: declare your intention publicly, design your non-negotiable practices, and prepare to engage with the inevitable challenges. The path is before you, marked by the footsteps of those like May who have walked it and transformed themselves. Remember, the consistency that intimidates others is the only consistency worth pursuing. It is not just discipline, it is identity. It is the death of your old self and the birth of your unbreakable self. The Guji system will not merely improve you, it will change you. When others look at you and say, "That's not normal," you will know you have arrived.